Leah. Leah is the matriarch who, on an apparent level, really didn't belong in the party, so to speak. Avram had Sarah, who he wanted and loved. Yitzchak had Rivka, who he wanted and loved. Yaakov had Rachel, who he wanted, who he loved. Why was Leah included? What did she add to the picture? What do we know about Leah? So we're told that in the text that her eyes were softened through weeping. What was she crying about? She had insight. She was very different than Rachel, who was a person very much of this world with 2 feet on the floor. Leah was a woman of insight, of depth. She understood that what was happening in an entirely different country, that Avram's family was building something for which the world was created. She got it. And she also understood what the yentas of the time were no doubt saying. He has 2 sons, he has 2 daughters, the older one should marry the older son, the younger one will marry the younger. She knew what the yentas of the time were saying. She knew that people were saying that she's cut out for Esav. I want you to realize that at the time, Esav looked like the better catch than Yaakov. He hadn't revealed his true colors yet. He wore the right clothes, spoke the right talk. How do you tithe salt? How do you tithe straw? He looked very pious. His inside was totally corrupt, and everything about him looked different than the inside. Rivka understood this, which is why she saw that Yaakov received the blessings. But Yitzchak didn't get it. Leah got it just by hearing of his reputation and taking herself a little bit beyond what the yentas of the time were saying. And she wept, and wept, and wept. She didn't want to marry Esav. What would have been so bad? Yaakov and Esav were very much the same. They both wanted both worlds. The difference is in why they wanted both worlds. For Yaakov, meaning, godliness, good, was what life is all for, and this world is the place to achieve it. For Esav, self-actualization, conquest, me is what the world is for, and spiritual adventurism is how to achieve it. They both want both worlds, but for completely different reasons. Could Leah have changed Esav? It's an arguable point, but she wanted no part of him. So what actually happened? How come she didn't end up in that frame? So the answer is that this was from Hashem. This was from God. It came through her tefillah, through her prayers. So we have to talk for a moment about how prayers actually work, since Leah very much demonstrates to us the actual power of prayers to change things. A person could say, if there are 2 people, they both have cancer, both stage 4. One has a friend who's praying for them, one doesn't have a friend who's praying for them. Why should this one be healed and that one not? Where's the justice? So the idea is as follows. What prayer does isn't to recreate justice. What prayer does is to make bonding, to draw us beyond the physical rules of cause and effect that govern our lives by giving us access to the source of things. There have been many experiments done about how prayer really works, whether it works. The one that sticks in my mind the best is one in which patients in Mass General were experimented upon, not to see if prayer works. At that point, nobody was interested in it, but to see how placebo effect works. So the group was divided in 2. Some were prayed for and told that they were being prayed for. Some were not. The ones who were being prayed for consistently lived longer and had less pain, or reported less pain. Okay, doesn't prove that prayer works. It proves that telling people somebody is doing for you works. They then they did another test. Okay, a blind test. Nobody will know who's praying for them and who isn't. And consistently, whoever is prayed for recovered again, not completely, but lived longer and with less pain. The experiment was repeated in Hebrew University, are you ready, on alfalfa. Pray for alfalfa, and it's a bit thicker and greener than the alfalfa that you don't pray for. What's it really about, though? What it's about is showing the possibility of our bonding with God being real, so that we'll be inspired to live lives that are more than the lives of the animals that surround us, that we don't live to eat and eat to live, that we live to bring about higher consciousness, that we'll change ourselves and let that change the world. Especially in the times in which we live, times in which financial institutions have crashed, basically because humans became predatory, because they were selfish, because they were relying on the law of the jungle. Prayer is the most important step we could possibly make in saying power comes from a higher source, and by relying on it, anything can change. Leah not only merited ultimately marrying Yaakov, but being the mother of the majority of the tribes, the most spiritual of the tribes, Levi, who was the ancestor of the Kohanim and Leviim, Yehuda, the father of the kings, and ultimately the ancestor of Mashiach. Both came from Leah. So what this tells us is that even though the Zohar tells us that had the world been different and had the people been different, there would have been one spouse for Yaakov who would have had the traits of both Rachel and Leah. But the world wasn't ready, so the spiritual wife and the down-to-earth one had to enter his life at different times. But Rachel alone couldn't have built Klal Yisrael. Rachel's practicality and ability to put her feet on the real world's earth had to be coupled with Leah's vision, and only that way could the Jewish people be truly what it is.